right, so episode 10, man. Last week we made the mistake and we thought it was episode 10. I noticed that.
I know I sent the marketing off. And
I'm looking at our thumbnail. I'm like, oh, they're not at 10 yet.
And I started typing up and I looked on the YouTube page and I'm like, oh, shit, it's not 10, it's 9.
Yeah, so this is a little monumental for us, 10 episodes. It goes by pretty fast.
I saw an email once that said the average podcast only hits 3. And after 3, they quit.
Really?
So, like, we're 3 times better than the average.
Yeah, we've been
quitter.
pretty consistent, too. It's almost been every week, too. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. As we're filming this, knowing we're not filming next week.
Well, that's the thing is so to give you guys a little insight, we were, Matt's got a crazy, we'll talk about the travel schedule, but it's been show after show, and, I'm actually going to head out to California tomorrow, but we're going to talk about, there's a big contest coming up, and then, of course, a lot of guys are going overseas, so talk a little bit about the next week for you.
So the next week, Regan Grimes came here to California, or to Las Vegas after the Olympia, and he hired a new coach, which is Milos Skarchev, and he's doing the show in Reno this weekend. And Friday, we're going to fly out, and we get there Friday. It's on Sunday. 2 weeks in a row, there's a show on Sunday, and then after that, we head to the Middle East for a couple days, and then we go to Cairo, Egypt, because he's competing in that KO, that show that Big Rami's connected to. So the first ever pro show in Egypt. So he's doing both of these back-to-back in the same week.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the legions, because that's, we'll talk about as a progression, but, let's kick it off because I want to cover the kind of the bodybuilding thing. This podcast was one of those things we kind of we started off, not talking about bodybuilding so much, but we have so many things happening in the bodybuilding arena, and I know a lot of our audience watches that. So we appreciate all that support, guys. So Legion Sports Festival, normally a California event. Last year, I don't know if it was in Palm Springs. Originally, it was the Frigno. It's gone now to the Legions. I actually appeared like 2 years ago. I don't think much happened with it last year. I don't even know if it.
You appeared when it was in Palm Springs.
Okay. I appeared when it was in California. It originally started in Palm Springs. No, it was in Huntington Beach or something last year, 2 years ago. So it's called the Legion Sports Festival. Like you said, it is on a Sunday, which is a little different. But what I'm noticing is it's a qualifier for 2022, and everyone knows the Vegas. Olympia is coming back. It's going to be, do we know the date? December?
They haven't announced it yet, but I've been told it's going to be later in the year.
Like a second or third week of December, right? So we have a show that's going to, have a pretty stacked lineup.
I mean, when you look at it, I know the list came out, and I know there's a lot of names on it, but the simple fact that you have Regan Grimes doing it, Sergio Oliva Jr., Shaun Clarita, Cedric McMillan, Max Charles, and Martin, the guy you saw today, Fitzwater. I mean, you got 5 guys there that have done the Olympia multiple times.
Yeah. So listen, Clarita being a 212 Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible. Looking at this lineup, on paper, Cedric should win this competition.
On paper, you would think Cedric would win, and Sergio would be there because he's probably been the highest placing of this guy at Arnold or an Olympia in the open division.
We got to witness Regan changing quite a bit this week. He's looking pretty impressive. I got to see Martin Fitzwater pose. I get to see Stanimo pose.
Yeah, Stanimo's doing the show too. We didn't even have his name down.
Yeah, a local guy named Ron Stevens. There's a Masters division on Friday night. I don't know if you knew that. On
a different tip, actually, I saw Ashley Kaltwasser's doing it too.
Is she really?
She posted today. She's going to the Legions.
Oh, so they have a bikini division also.
Yeah, they have like 6 divisions.
Okay. Yeah. So it seems like it's going to shape up to be pretty amazing, and you're going to be there to witness it. Yeah.
Why don't you go? You got nothing better to do.
Yeah, I'm taking a little trip. I'm going to be shooting YouTube on Friday.
Yeah, so since Regan's came here, he he wasn't happy with his showing at the Olympia. And the transformation I've seen him make in the last, 9 days, I can't. You're just going to have to see what he looks like when he's on stage.
Yeah, I know we wanted to get him on, and I think we will here in the future. But what's his thought process of being able to train at a different gym in Vegas every day? What do you think? I know you've been to all different gyms. Probably This is probably the most gyms you've been to since you moved here.
I know. Well, it's every day, twice a day he's going. He's doing 2-a-days, cardio twice a day. So we're just basically getting him around to all the gyms. You know, he primarily goes to Dragon's Lair and Powerhouse because they got good posing rooms. So he goes through these crazy giant sets with Milos, and then he poses for an hour. Then he goes back, rests for 4 or 5 hours, comes back to another gym, trains, poses again. And it's cool just sitting back watching the transformation he's making.
How much effort is the posing he's putting in right now?
It's more than he's ever done.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just, I can only go off what he said, but you can see the first day he was in there posing, it was like an out of shape basketball player, you know, just trying to run up and down the court. And now a week and a half later, he hits the poses. He's not shaking anymore. He's not, just because he's going through them so much. It's a totally different presentation.
Yeah, it's funny if you look back, a lot of my old videos, my DVDs, if you look back at One Step or, you know, Ripped to Shreds, or you notice I'm always posing in those videos because I spent always time in the locker room going through the quarter turns. And how I would actually do it, I would start, you know, about 6 weeks out from a competition, because I felt like I was in good enough condition that you could see some details and everything else, where that's when you can really start sitting in the poses and understanding how the body looks at what angles, right? And I think that's what I've noticed, the adjustments that Milos has made. And it started on Sunday after the Olympia, I believe, in the gym at the Hyatt Hotel.
Yep.
When he took a look at him, you know, and I saw the video just launched on YouTube on Regan's channel. But, you know, I would start by doing mandatory. So I would do quarter turns and I would hold for 10 seconds. So I'd have someone count. So stand and relax, 10 seconds. Quarter turn to the right, 10 seconds. So I would do that 2 cycles. I would go 2 cycles through, and then I would do the poses the same way. So if we hit front double bicep, 10 seconds, hold, and then, you know, next pose, front lat spread. And I would do that 2 cycles. So I did 2 full rounds of posing, all the poses, the 7 mandatories at the time, it was 7, and then 2 rounds of quarter turns. Because when I was trying to win the Olympia since 99, the quarter turns counted as much as the poses. So they broke the show into, okay, the quarter turns are going to be first. So they literally would bring everyone out and they would do quarter turns, and then they would put you back in line.
Yep.
And then when they did the call outs again, it would be for the poses. You wouldn't have to do quarter turns anymore. It wasn't like quarter turn to the right. They just asked for the poses. It seems like now it's not necessarily like that. You know, they bring out a group and they might turn them, but like they did call outs back then, which were just quarter turn call outs. You understand?
Yeah.
So you had to be prepared in all aspects. And I think today we're noticing, being at the Olympia, some guys still struggle with the posing a lot.
I noticed last year that was the biggest thing with Rami. He was the first one in the pose. Mm-hmm. He didn't shake, nothing, and he was the last one out. And another person I noticed that does that is Nick Walker.
Yeah.
You can tell he does his homework. He hits the pose before anybody, because some guys will wait, and then they only hit it for a couple seconds, and then they stop. You know, maybe it's easier on them, but it's not as good for the presentation. If you can hold it for, 5, 6, 7 seconds, 10 seconds, it just looks more professional as well.
Yeah, so I think that's, condition, but it also, it depends on the body, like how your body is able to move into those poses and how you can tip your biceps. I think what people have the hardest time is like doing a rear double bicep and being able to tip the elbows back. And I noticed, like we were telling that with Regan the first couple of days he was here, make sure you get that tip, because remember the judges are kind of looking up at the physique. So I always tell everyone, like, you got to pay attention to where the placement is, and a lot of their bodies are dependent on, how the body functions, and that goes with the training too. And, I want to touch upon something. I got to work with a therapist today.
Okay.
At Dragon's Lair. There's a guy in town named Miguel, and he calls it the torture room. And basically, he tortures people on the table with deep tissue work. And I think I was the pioneer for tissue work, right? I mean, if you look back at a lot of the stuff talking about, massage therapy, neuromuscular therapy, Like I started early on with that. I started when I started in 96, when I won the nationals. I had a girl that used to do tissue work on me. And then of course when I migrated to California, Chris Cormier introduced me to a guy named Steve Murphy, and he transformed my physique from being last at the Olympia to eventually being first. And releasing that fascia, allowing blood flow, keeping the restricted, tension to the muscle. If you notice, a lot of people, they can't even do pull downs correctly or rowing movements because, their shoulders are locked and, chest contraction. You have to be pliable. I mean, a pliable muscle means more blood volume, better pump, continuous recovery, but also performance in the gym, right? And detail. How important is detail today? Like
everything.
We talk about like even Regan, we were saying, the lines in the hamstrings. People want to talk about striations, but do you remember back in the day, most of the guys, they do a side tricep and you could see all the lines in the shoulders. We were talking about at Fit Club the other night.
Yeah.
We don't see as much of that detail now. The muscles are so full. It seems like the physique's got a lot fuller.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not discrediting anyone, and I'm not saying that even in my era we were fuller at some events, but I tell you, at 240, I had a lot of detail in my physique.
Yeah.
And a lot of that I attribute to the tissue work.
Yeah.
And I would spend at least a few hours each week doing that, probably 6 hours a week. And today I realize that I still need this. Even though I don't train crazy, I don't train as heavy, I still feel like I need to get some sort of tissue work. I just feel so much better now after, it's been a few hours, and I feel like everything's kind of been flushed out. But, we're going to see, who performs the best and like who gets the qualification, right? Because it's only top one, right?
It's only the winner. I mean, it's, and I still want to touch on Shaun Clarita doing it. I mean, he's a 212 Mr. Olympia, and
why is he doing it?
I don't know. I thought I was going to text Jansen and ask him, and I just thought, well, look, we'll see him in a couple days, but he's probably like, hey, let me, because he gets in really, really good shape. In a lot of these open shows, nobody's in shape. Like, I mean, I'm talking peeled shape, and he probably looks at it like, look, I get in such good shape, I can go knock a bunch of these guys off. And you know what? I guarantee you he's going to knock somebody off on this list that you wouldn't expect.
Well, he's only 180 pounds.
Yeah.
But there's a little controversy with the Olympia. There's a lot of opinions. Mm-hmm. That's the crazy thing about being subjective at the Olympia is that, people favored him over Derek Lunsford. But, we talked about this.
Yeah.
But it's funny that, we can do an episode a week ago and we can talk about, hey, this is the guy that won. We agreed. We called it. But since then, you hear rumblings of like, oh, well, he was better here or there. And it's not that he was worse than last year. That's the crazy part. Like it's like when Brandon was better the year prior. It's just that Big Ramy was just better than Brandon and he won, right? So I think it's a little tough. But
I thought it was like that the year before that too, because Kamal I thought looked crazy because he was the reigning champion and he ran into Shaun and Shaun was his all-time best.
Yeah, it could have.
And I thought the same thing this year. Shaun looked really, really good, but Derek it was his all-time best, and who knows? They could go flop back and forth this next time around. Who knows? But I do think he's gonna hold his own. Even though, I mean, look, against a Cedric, he's given up over 100 pounds. Cedric's in the 280s. That's a lot of size to give up, but I think he'll hold his own. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
more of a reason for you to come.
Right. What's crazy though is like I want to talk a little bit about the Middle East and Middle Eastern bodybuilding, and the guys now dominating the Olympia, and the Kuwait thing kind of started right years ago, and I think Dennis James was the first one to kind of bring it to attention, and the guys started traveling over there, and then they came up with this whole Oxygen crew, and Ashkenani and all these guys started like coming out of the woodwork, and he was a 212 guy knocking at the door, second place, and then winning the Arnold Classic, right? And now you have, you had Ramy come out of there in 2013, and
Brandon Curry's been there.
Yeah, Brandon Curry's been training there. William Bonnick now travels there. Nathan Diasha.
Regan was actually there for a short period.
Yes.
So De La Rosa went over there for a while.
But you're starting to see these guys make headways. I mean, you had two foreign guys, which back in my era, like, it was rare that, the foreign guys had as much of a chance. It seemed like the Americans dominated. Even like Nasser, I think he was Egyptian. He came over to the States and he trained, here. So you're seeing now the guys going to Middle East to train because the gyms are like crazy equipped, and there's guys changing the weights. They got crazy food.
They got everything's
kind of catered to them.
Yeah.
And and now they're hosting events there. Bader has his big event normally.
Kuwait Pro Show.
Yeah. And then now you're talking about this show in Egypt. So what is the expected lineup there?
I asked them, they haven't told me who else is doing it, but I know they're trying to recruit some other top guys. I just don't know who.
What's the restriction for like anyone to go from here?
I think Egypt's just like any other country where as long as you
need a visa or
no, we get an automatic visa being a U.S. citizen. You just have to do a COVID test 72 hours before.
Yeah, you mentioned. So tell me about your COVID test.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to do a COVID test either Friday or Saturday this week. Okay. Because Monday we fly to Dubai.
So it has to be how many hours? 72? Okay.
So Monday we go to Dubai, and we get there at Tuesday night at midnight because it's on the other side.
Okay, and you're at the Dubai Muscle Show.
Yep. And then we're there, and then we got Wednesday, Thursday, and then that Friday night we fly out at 7 p.m. So as soon as we land, we're gonna have to take another test. So then when we get to Egypt, you have to prove it there, and then we'll be in Egypt. I think we're going to stay till Wednesday, so we're going to go do the show, and I think the day after, Dennis James told me we'll go. We're going to go do some sightseeing.
Are you actually going to see the pyramids that you've been talking about seeing? Yes. Are you going to go down inside?
I'm gonna do whatever I can.
Dennis said he went down and he couldn't turn around. He was kind of scared.
Really?
Yeah, because it's so tight.
Yeah.
That I think you go down, you have to walk straight, you cannot turn around, and then when you get to the big room is when you can turn around, but I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to do that.
We'll find out. I know
Are you going to go?
Yeah. He said Monday we're going to do some VIP tour with me, Regan, him, and some other people. I think.
How long are you staying after the event?
The show's on. So we get in late Friday night. We get in at like 8:30 p.m. So Saturday, get him acclimated. Yeah. Sunday's the show, and we're going to stay Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday night at like 3 a.m. So we're just going to take 2 full days, and then we're going to come
And
back.
when you land back, what day is it here? It's a day behind, right?
Wednesday night.
Okay.
So it's a lot. It's, and I thought about it. I mean, it's a lot for me. Imagine him, we got to fly around the world. He's got to stay in his diet flying, and there's no direct flights from Reno. So you have to go from Reno to San Francisco to Germany.
We know you're hooked up on these airlines, man.
we'll
tell
be
me
all right.
a little bit about it. So
we'll be okay.
So my question to you: are you going to smash your 1K status on United?
I already have. I already passed that.
Fuck, man, I need some of those miles. I need some of that spend, and I think we decided I need to spend. How much more money do I need to spend?
I think you got to
spend
$10,000.
Like,
no. It's like under 5.
Okay,
but you'll do it. Just not being cheap.
By December?
Take a trip.
By December?
By December 31st.
Damn. J-Mac, where should I go? Park City. Yeah, I don't even think United flies there.
No, you're gonna have to take 2 layovers in an Uber. But no, we'll.
So you're gonna have beds,
of course. I'm not flying.
And what are you gonna eat on the plane?
I'm eating whatever they're serving me because I can eat what I want.
Yeah. Your training's been off lately, man.
I know. I know. I looked in the mirror the other day. I'm usually veins everywhere. I'm like, geez, I look extremely.
Well, you've been in the gym last couple of days, though.
Yeah, 2 days. Yeah. I look like a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I'm just
wondering what
my diet.
Are you gonna have to fill us in on what food what's gonna be the celebration food over there? I'm curious to know what you're gonna eat in Dubai and in Egypt.
It'll be they're just gonna be very busy days because we get in late Tuesday night. Wednesday, I think Regan's gonna go film with Larry Wheels.
Yeah,
and
I did when you remember.
Yeah, and plus it's just getting acclimated. That first day is messed up, and then he's got 2 5-hour appearances, back-to-back days. And when we get done at Friday at the second appearance, we're going straight from the expo straight to the airport because we got a 7 p.m. flight. But it's close. It's only like 4 miles away.
Yeah,
but it's not simple traveling internationally, especially with the way I don't know what they're going to be like traveling there with your COVID tests and all that other stuff. So, and I've never been to Egypt. I mean, I've been to Dubai, countless times, but just never Egypt. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some pretty crazy dinners when we go over there. And, you remember when Barter took us, we sat inside that, like that little, I don't know if it was like a tent,
We sat in a place and they brought food out on these plates
crazy.
that were huge, and they didn't give you silverware. You had to eat with your hands. And I was like, okay. I mean,
but there was a lot of people. We had a whole table.
Everyone was there. Rolly was there. Rami was there. Ashkenani was there.
I just remember Rolly ate like unbelievable amount of food, bro. He just ate and ate and ate. And
you know what? Just a random Rolly story. We were in Mumbai, India, and we're staying at this nice hotel, and it's all you can eat. So we go downstairs and we eat, and I went upstairs for like 30 minutes, and I came back down, and Rolly was still eating. He had like a stack of plates like this. I'm like, how can you eat so much food? I'm like, it was just endless.
Yeah, people liked the last week's episode when I talked about Nasser eating those 3 pieces of cheesecake at Cheesecake Factory 3 weeks out from the Olympia, and did the 3 hours of cardio, and he did an hour for each.
I wonder how many other people did that too.
Oh, dude, everyone's blowing their diet, I'm sure, but not 3 weeks.
I used to remember reading on the boards way back in the day, and guys would be like, "So and so just ate a whole pizza a week out." He's like, "I couldn't handle it." So I think it was like Tom Prince or something. I couldn't handle it. I had to order 2 pizzas. It's like, dude, you can't keep it together.
There's a lot of money on the line, but. It leads me to talk a little bit about the best foods, like what seems to be. People always ask me that question, like, "Hey, how did you put on the size?" Like, and it's easy to just say, "Oh, I eat 8 or 10 times a day." I really
got to eat certain things.
I think if I was honest with people, 6 meals a day was like pretty standard.
Yeah.
Like when Chris Aceto wrote my first diet, it was 6 meals, and I would definitely have my eggs for breakfast. I wasn't a chicken eater for breakfast. Some people get up and eat chicken breast. Some people have shakes. I always ate eggs and a couple whole eggs, and I always had oatmeal, grits, or cream of rice.
You still eat the same thing?
I eat cream of wheat. Yeah, I cream of wheat now. And but chicken and rice was always my go-to. Like I always ate chicken and rice. White rice, people always ask, well, why not brown? Brown is a little fibrous. Like we talk about things that mess your stomach up.
That's what we were talking about earlier. If I eat brown rice, I can't eat for like 5 or 6 hours after it.
It just bloats you, right?
I don't know why, but if I eat white rice, an hour later, I'm okay.
Yeah, it's a little faster.
Or pasta for whatever reason.
I was a huge pasta
I could eat
eater.
pasta nonstop, and I can just keep eating it all day. And it goes through my body.
For me to have to be so big and keep so many calories in. I would have 5 ounces of pasta, which is 100 grams of carbs, right? And anyone can eat 5.
Is that 5 ounces cooked or dry?
5 ounces of dry.
Dry.
So I would, so I mean, that's a decent plate, but if that with 6 or 8 ounces of chicken breast, I mean, that was pretty much my meal, a little red sauce. Easy to get down, but I would eat pasta. I mean, even when I was working on the golf course in the early ages, Chris loved me on the pasta. The only thing, I only cut it really for the contest. I didn't eat as much. I still had maybe 1 meal pre-contest, but that was once I got lean enough. I had to clean it up a little bit. But, then, of course, I ate sweet potatoes, and, I'd go between red potatoes, white potatoes if I wanted something faster.
Did you ever eat hash browns like I do?
I didn't. I don't know. I lie. I did. The 03 Ironman, I swear to God, that's what I had, like, for a lot of my meals.
Because when you look on the back of it, it's just a potato.
Yeah. Just more sodium, but I didn't give a shit about sodium then.
I just spray the pan, put it in there, just like I like eating it with breakfast.
One thing never concerned me was the sodium, unless I needed to scale back the last few days. But I would always add sodium. Sodium is great because it helps with all the muscle contraction, shuttling, and like you need sodium. No one should be on a no sodium diet through their whole preparation.
You never had
contest.
Blood pressure issues?
No, never.
That's the only time.
And I added sea salt or whatever else. I mean, I never really had that restriction.
Yeah.
So there was just so many ways for me to to put on the mask. But the most important thing is the continuous eating. And I try to stress to people, whether you're an athlete, whether you're bodybuilding, recovering, whatever it is, you have to have the continuous food. Meaning, like my window was 2 hours. I suggest every 3 hours. Yeah. So right now, I probably eat about 5 meals a day, and I feel really good. I'm not eating that 6th meal, but I don't think I actually sleep really well at night. I probably should be still eating 6 meals, but as you get a little older, you try to scale back some. I'm sure you're eating, what, 1 or 2 meals?
I wasn't eating much. I was only eating a couple meals a day, like the last 3 or 4 weeks. It just.
But when you were at your all-time peak,
I ate nonstop.
Chasing the gym, how many meals do you think you ate?
Minimum of 6.
Okay.
Minimum. I ate way more than I honestly.
Let me ask you, what's Regan eating? How many does he eat right now?
He's eating a lot. He's eating probably 6 or 7.
Okay.
But he has 0 carbs.
Yeah, Hani had me on 7 meals. Chris had me on 6.
There was I honestly when I was chasing it years ago, I think I ate as much as a lot of the strongmen.
That's a lot.
I ate a lot.
I think you overeat though.
I do. I know I do. I like eating though.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
But I used to, this is so bad. Back when I was going to college, if you had your student ID, you could get 3 foot-long subs from Subway for $10. So there was a period where I ate 3 every night before I went to sleep. Yes. That's when I was like at my peak size strength. I ate 3 steak and
J-Mac,
cheese.
you hear this shit? 3 subs, and you can eat a lot, man. You're a big dude, so
yeah. I used to. I mean,
but he's leaned out.
I would wake up
still
and
eats a lot.
I would wake up and eat like 4 slices of bread, 4 things of bacon, 4 things of sausage.
Well, you only eat 3 of each one of those now.
I know. But no, I mean, I used to eat a ton, but back when I thought I could be a pro bodybuilder one day, I mean, I was still
Who did you live with at that point?
I lived by myself for most of it, and then I had right out of college, I had a roommate that played in the NFL. He was a linebacker, and I had a rapper that lived. The 3 of us, we had this big house, and it was
no
chaos.
Girlfriends.
No, none that lived with me. No.
So no girl cooked the food for you. So that's probably why you were eating all this garbage.
I just ate it all myself.
See, from the get go, I was obviously I had a girlfriend that became wife, right? And she would cook the food. I would, we kind of eat on the same pattern, and that made it so much easier for me. And I was a very homebody person, so I would make sure I wouldn't leave because I would make sure my food was cooked and I was a fresh food cooker. Now, we have Trifecta and we're getting meal service all the time, right? Which, can you imagine if I had this in my era? Would I use?
If you saw my house right now, there's Trifecta everywhere.
Really?
Because Regan's here and Valerie's here, and they're all.
How much food do they eat to go through packets?
We're going through a lot. I mean, because
So you just got a big order of Trifecta when?
Well, we have another one coming tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, another one. Just getting like 15 pounds of basa for him. Just whitefish.
Is that what he's eating mostly?
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah, when I was at Dragons today, bro, all I smelled was fish from these guys.
Yeah.
Everyone that walked by me that's competing has smelled like white fish.
Does that make you want to go diet again?
It makes me fucking sick. Do you know, I had to cook my fish outdoors.
Yeah.
Because it stunk the furniture, the clothes, everything. I had to throw so much clothing out.
Yeah.
And pillows and everything because I didn't know, and I would cook the fish on the George Foreman.
Yeah.
And when you're cooking 5 pounds a day, man, like it's just unbelievable.
You used to eat Orange Roughy. Yeah. That shit makes you shit your pants.
I know. I did.
You used to tell the story. You used to tell the story when you shit your pants.
That was because I had colitis. So,
J-Mac, you ever hear that story? You gotta listen to
the Mark Bell podcast.
Tell the story where he shit his pants and it shit so much in his pants it lifted him up.
Yeah. I couldn't hold it,
But now Orange Roughy does that though. It just makes your stomach not happy.
Yeah.
But at least at Trifecta, at least got Basa, and Basa doesn't. It's not so fishy.
Yeah. So Carrie would cook a lot of the food, and she knew how I liked. I mean, I ate very bland and blah blah blah. But we'd go on these trips to like the Olympia, like when we were staying at Mandalay Bay. We didn't have kitchenettes, bro. We weren't smart enough. There wasn't like residents in down the street. We wanted to stay at the host hotel so we could be at the meetings and everything. So I had to prepare all my food ahead of time. So the way I did it, they didn't allow microwaves in the room. So I would bring a big George Foreman, the biggest one they had. I would plug it in, and everything was in tin foil. So I had the fish in tin foil, and I had all my sweet potatoes in tin foil, and that's what I would eat pretty much the whole time. So she would just put the tin foil in there, heat it up that way, and then I would eat it, off a plate or whatever. And, that's how simplified it was, Where I remember Paul Dillette would just eat from the buffet. And I was like, man, this guy's beating me, It's just crazy. Like some of these, I mean, Chris Cormier, like we went and competed at the Ironman and he was eating Subway like 3 days out. And I'm like, here I am, 50 grams of carbs and cooking fish at the Marina Pacific Hotel.
And they were beating you.
Yeah. So, it was, I had never traveled to
that
shows
make you
by
feel?
myself. So I'm really, what?
I was going to say, how did that make you feel? You lost to a guy eating a buffet.
Listen,
and
it's all genetics.
Subway.
And then eventually I wanted, I started winning it all. I was winning Ironman eating shredded potatoes.
See? You need to eat more hash browns.
So people would think about that.
A hash brown endorsement.
I never traveled to these shows by myself, though. That's when it really helped having a spouse or, someone there to support you. And it's really good that, you're going to support Regan. I mean, it's just really, back then we had to do the tan the same way.
Yeah. No, I don't like anyone that's competing because that, look, there's a lot of, it can be dangerous. Mm-hmm. And you can't go by yourself. You always have to have someone go. And this time, fortunately I'm able to go with. And, I've been managing Regan for almost 5 years now. So it's just, it'll be a good trip. And I think I actually, I think he's gonna win at least one of these shows, if not both. I believe he can. Look, anything can happen, but I think he has the potential to win both of them.
We're not going to give a prediction on. We don't know really who's in it, right? No.
I mean, look, other guys have the potential to win too, but I think he's going to get one of them. I don't know which one. But,
all right, so you want to ask me about a big topic that happened at the Olympia?
Which one?
Hall of Fame.
Yeah. We this last time we just talked all about the Olympia and what happened and went through talking about the different physiques and who won what divisions, but we didn't even touch on the fact that you got inducted.
I didn't want to talk much about it.
Well, too bad. So it's a big deal. I mean, when bodybuilders don't get outside of Arnold, don't get associated with mainstream sports, and the fact that you got inducted into the International Sports
Hall of Fame
with Stephanie McMahon and Marcus Allen and Billy Blanks, like my mom knows who Billy Blanks is.
Yeah.
I mean, these are people that are household names, and you got inducted with them, and we didn't really talk about it. So, I got to see. I literally, because you guys got there way before me, and I was tied up at the expo, so I walked over there and didn't realize it was like a 20-minute walk, literally. And I got there, and I watched just enough to see you up there, and I was texting Angie. I'm like, I can't stay here this whole time. I have to get back.
Yeah.
But I at least got to see your speech and got to see put the medal around your neck and all that. But
yeah, it was pretty cool because
so
they did it at the Olympia. Normally at the Arnold Classic. I've been to those before where I watched Herschel Walker, bunch. I mean, Arnold's got that. I mean, Ronnie Coleman's got the award, and I think Lee Haney, all these guys that they don't pick a lot of bodybuilders.
No.
So you got a lot of more mainstream people. Apollo Ono, who was a speed skater for the Olympics. I mean, he's a close friend of mine. I remember he was inducted one year, and I remember thinking, watching that, and I'm like, man, you have to do legendary shit in order to really be on that stage.
Yeah.
And when they called me to say, hey, we want to induct you, I was like, it made me sit back and think, holy shit, like I've actually done quite a bit of things in bodybuilding. But what I tell everyone, and I had a lot of reflecting this year especially, I don't realize what I've done now until years removed.
Of course.
And separating myself from that persona, like, wow. Like some of the things that I've actually gone and done, I think, wow, I was a strong person to do that. I had a lot of willpower, a lot of commitment, time. It was a lot of time. Yeah. And, the achievements are going to stand till the end of time, and that's what's really cool is like, I was the only 3-time consecutive Arnold winner. I was only Mr. Olympia to lose the title and win it back the next year. Like, and I was, I defeated Ronnie Coleman on stage, which no one really, I don't think people necessarily did that prior to then.
No.
So for me, like those achievements for itself, but people look past all those stage things that I'd done and how I've, established being a figurehead. And you never plan on that. I just wanted to be as popular as, Rich Gaspari or Lee Haney or Dorian Yates. I wanted to be known like on a worldwide scale.
Yeah.
And here I am getting these awards of achievements that I say, why me? I mean, I said that in my speech. I said, I don't think what I done is that extraordinary until you think about what happened, and reflect on it a little bit. And, you're getting these awards, and, I'm just excited that, I was able to take part in that. And, it's going to be a huge memory for me till the end of time. I mean, look. And it was fitting because it was at the Olympia.
Yeah.
So I think, listen, I was an RO champ too, right? But being at the Olympia and being able to talk about Joe Weider, I did in my speech because he really mentored me in a lot of ways that no one understood. Because a lot of the people in today's era don't know who Joe Weider was.
No. What year did he die?
He died around 12 or 13, I think. Yeah. I want to say 13.
Yeah, so some of these guys that are dominating on the stage now are coming up. They weren't even pro yet.
No, and back in my era when you received a pro card after nationals or USAs or you usually got a contract.
Yeah.
Like it was like Joe Weider's going to give you a deal. So you knew immediately you were going to have a job. And yes, it wasn't a crazy amount of money, but at least you had consistent income and it was a year-to-year deal. So you were motivated. I think that, when you get these multiple deal contracts, sometimes people aren't as motivated, and they don't know really how to take advantage of, these people. But, legendary space, like that's, where this is going to lie. So I'm just super excited about how it all came together. And, I'm glad that Jake Wood and Dan Solomon, the committee, was all part of that too.
Yeah.
Fairfax, Hackley, and, like I said, I was on the stage with some greats. Marcus Allen floored me.
Yeah.
You didn't stay for his speech.
No, I didn't get to see his speech. I just knew who he was growing up.
He talked about football. His parents, and he said at 12 he knew he was going to win the Heisman. Like he believed it. And he'd look in the mirror and he'd practice his speech, which I think is pretty amazing. Yeah. And he became like unbelievable, like ball player. Like he did it all. I never realized, I was a fan of his, but I didn't realize all the achievements.
Yeah.
And to be able to have him, because he's relative to bodybuilding, I think his wife actually competes. So he's, he was at the Brandon Curry event when we were there and we didn't get to say hello. So
I remember seeing him in a distance.
It's pretty crazy that, I was able to grace the stage with someone like that. And, I see these heroes that I had when I was, 12 years old, which, I saw Stallone and Van Damme and, someone like him on Sports Illustrated. And now I'm like sharing time.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. It makes you realize that, man, I come a long way since Sterling, Massachusetts,
Yeah. Sometimes it's good to take a step back and look at the body of work of what you've done because you've been living it, so you don't always necessarily realize
and
what's happening.
And the thing is like, you win the Olympia and you think your whole world's going to change, but what you realize is you go back home and, you got to still pay the light bill and the someone's knocking on your door and, then someone, your sister calls you because she's upset at her husband. You know what I mean? Like there's all those things that come into play that you think that because, now you've reached that status that, people have that perception like, oh, that doesn't happen to him but man, it's just normal life. You know what I mean? Yeah. We missed a flight on the way home or it's delayed. And, we got stuck in LA coming back from the Olympia. Remember, things got delayed and there was that guy that was drunk on the plane, and I thought there was going to be a scene because he's like, I need to get there now. And I'm thinking in my head, like, listen, I'd like to get there too, bro. I'm pretty tired,
I'm sitting there with my head down, and I'm patient now. Years ago, I wouldn't have been, but I was sitting there. I'm like, I hope this guy doesn't touch me. Like, I'm envisioning myself just like yoking him up, and I'm like, please just stay over here. Just don't say anything. Just leave me alone. Because he was sitting right next to me.
Yeah.
I need to get there right now. Get the pilot. Talk to the people out there. You can't have this delay anymore. It's like, dude, it's weather.
Yeah, I was coming home and, we're supposed to go on tour to Canada.
Yeah.
The next weekend, which was...
We were supposed to go Wednesday.
Yeah, so we would have just been getting back, basically.
We would have got back and spent one night and went back on the road.
So... for me, I actually got a visit from my brother, my middle brother, Keith. So it goes Bob, Keith, Randall. And my nephew came, and my nephew ran an ultra marathon, 240 miles in Utah. 240 miles.
Even, like if I look something up and I have to drive 240, I'm looking for a flight. Just imagine like driving.
Yeah,
it's like driving.
So
it's
my
going to LA.
My nephew is one of the best in Massachusetts, and he had told me when I was back home shortly ago, said, I'm coming out to Utah. I'm going to compete in this ultra or whatever. I forget what it was called. David Goggins actually did the race last year. He finished second. So he finished 14th out of like 200 and something people. And he had blisters on his feet. Like they had to basically wrap his feet like through the race because like his feet were all blisters. But it took him like 76 hours or something he ran. They stop. Like he'll stop, and he said he laid down for maybe 30 minutes, but he didn't sleep. So he didn't sleep for that many days. And he would have his water linked up, and I don't know, he would probably eat something super quick. But
they still run through the night, don't they have lights?
Yeah, they run through the light. So they run through the night and have lights, on his head and whatever. And my brother and his wife and my nephew's wife and a friend actually ran 100 miles with him of the 240. But he joined him like as he got in to kind of push him. And my brother would drive to each station, for certain areas to meet him so they could lay down. They had a van. So they came and stayed with me, and he was kind of recovering from that. And he was having trouble walking on his feet. And so, if you guys look at Cody Cutler is his name, and he's unbelievable, man. It's pretty wild.
That's like,
can you imagine running that?
No, I can't. I don't want to run a mile.
76 hours, bro.
That's a long time.
Yeah,
that's 3 days. Like, I don't like running anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I said.
So I was tracking him while we were at the Olympia. My family was texting me, hey, look how Cody's doing. And, I kind of wanted to finish a little bit of our discussion with that. That was pretty cool,
Yeah. No, I mean, that's, I think you should try.
Yeah. No.
How far can you run?
I used to be a cross-country runner.
I was when I was like 16.
Yeah. So was I. Well, I was when I was in grammar school, but.
Could you run a mile?
I was actually no, I couldn't run a mile now.
I think we should try and film it.
Well, yeah, we should film it.
Put it up.
Me and Brian Shaw will run a mile.
He's going to be here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, maybe we should run a mile.
Maybe we'll put him on the show.
What do you got for questions for me this week?
All right, let's see what we got here.
And you sidelined me with some pretty tough ones last week, so.
So that means you want basic, easy questions?
Oh, I know you had some for me.
Let's see. Hey, Jay, what's your opinion on the late Rich Piana? Did you have a relationship with him at all, or any cool stories about Rich? He is very similar.
He's a YouTube pioneer, man. Like I loved his this attitude. I mean, he got on and just said anything. He had a huge following. Remember his lineups, bro?
Yeah. No,
I just spent a lot of time with him in Europe, and he definitely set the tone for. I was kind of thinking like he was the first guy that came out and talked really voluntarily about gear and like what he used, and he was a really honest guy. So I think that's why he was very transparent like that. I think we lack that in today's industry a lot.
Yeah.
But he influenced a lot of people. I mean, he had the crazy round muscle bellies, and he was a great competitor. I mean, he did commercials back in the day. I mean, he was a real figurehead in bodybuilding. So it was a huge travesty when we lost him so early. I mean, I think he died at 46.
Yeah.
And, I loved his content,
Yeah, he had really good content. Yeah, he was probably the first big name.
Well, we got to train when we were over at Body Power, and, spend some time. We'd eat at that chicken place, Nando's.
Yeah.
And it was cool. We got to spend some time. He's pretty missed these days.
Yeah. Said Big J, you mentioned you never have any joint issues. My question is it worth investing in glucosamine supplement? It's expensive. I'm talking about the liquid version. Or do you have some other suggestions besides that and eating healthy fats?
Listen, eating healthy fats is really how it's, I think everyone's going to experience joint pain depending on your age. And if you're a weight trainer, I think, listen, we're not made to beat our bodies up in the gym. But, krill oil, essential fats are definitely helpful. But definitely having the right kind of diet, nutrition is definitely going to help as much as possible. I mentioned the tissue work, the massages. I don't stress that enough because, any kind of tension around the joints, you're always going to have some sort of arthritis that forms as you get older, but you can keep the muscles more pliable around that joint, which will help with the pain a lot. So between the tissue work, essential fats, proper diet, a lot of hydration.
Yeah. So you never took any glucosamine?
I didn't take glucosamine. I mean, I was sponsored, and I think maybe I took some back in the day, but I didn't really need it. I was in my 20s.
What do you think the main cause for all the larger midsection is in today's bodybuilding?
Overeating.
Yeah.
People like to talk about growth hormone and insulin, and listen, man, we all did our share of drugs or whatever else, but the truth is I think the food, the high protein, I think, eating an over amount of protein is not good.
Yeah. I remembered sitting there with Phil one year when he was competing, and I remember seeing just how much rice he was eating and how much food, and you just think, if your body slows down on processing, it's going to push you out.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I think with a lot of those guys, it's the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's overeating. I mean, listen, I wasn't blessed with a small waist, but I never had really heavy extension. When I did, I'd say 2005 Olympia was my worst, and I was eating a ton of oatmeal, and I think oatmeal bloated me a lot. I mean, people say the gluten or whatever else, but we talked about the high fiber. I think when you eat a lot of fiber, you get more push in your body. Your body doesn't process it as well, so you just have to be careful what you put in your gut. But at the same time, don't overeat. I think we all kind of tend to overeat sometimes. I mean, we just had that discussion about you eating 3 subs in one sitting. I mean, the body can't assimilate all that food. So I think you're better off just smaller spurts of food in portionate meals.
Yeah. Do you think the Olympia should be held outside of the country like the old days?
I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Listen, I love Vegas, but man, can you imagine going to Middle East or Brazil? Or we talked about this, I think, on one of the podcasts, but I think it should be. I think it should go outside. I think every couple years or 3 years, maybe.
As soon as I looked at that, I thought, wow, what if it was in Rio? Or what if it was in Tokyo? Or what if it was in what if it was in Bali?
See, you love the cultures. You love traveling. I know not really necessarily South America, but you love Asian markets. I think can you imagine though if they had it in the Middle East? Think about if
you had it in Dubai.
Yeah, Dubai. Think about the biggest bodybuilding show in the world. But the problem is when you have a vast majority of U.S. competitors, the biggest issue is the Olympia pays to fly.
Yeah.
All the athletes there, correct?
And I'm not saying this for them to try to go chase it, but if you did it in Dubai, the Emirates Airlines is owned by the government. You would just work it out with them to where they would take care of the competitors flying over there.
And the women can go. I mean, women can go. That's people have that misconception. Oh, the women aren't allowed to show face or whatever else, but it's pretty open there, right?
I mean, what if it was in Paris, or Helsinki, like it was one year? I mean, now it can't just be. It has to be in a massive market that can handle the hotels and the.
If the Olympia sold 50,000 seats in one arena and 20,000 in another, but the truth is it's always the same number. Yeah. We don't break a certain threshold, right? So I don't think it
goes over 10. It
seems to never go. And listen, if they do, that's who knows how much it's the truth, but. When you're not having that much, why not? If the sponsors are there, you have to look at, okay, who's going to sponsor, how much is the cost, but to bring the whole production crew, that could be the hardest part, right?
Well, you'd have to rely on either whatever company you have shipping their stuff international, or they would have to have some type of company there that they would work with.
I mean, listen,
I'm sure they can do it.
Some of these expos might be pricing space out, for a lot of people, to have a booth and everything else. You see, when we go to FIBO and these other places, how big are the booths there? They're crazy.
They're bigger than the ones we
So I think it's cheaper to have a booth in these bigger venues.
It could. I mean, look, any country in the world could have it. I mean, they have the biggest music festivals in the world, are all over Europe, all over the Middle East, all over. When I worked in the music, industry,
there's demographics. Bodybuilding demographics have increased all over. Yeah. I mean, you could have a Mr. Olympia in Australia and have 10,000 people for sure.
You might even have more. Because here in America,
limited,
there's so much to do. Yes. And imagine if I'm going to make up.
I feel Americans are spoiled, bro.
Imagine if you had it in Budapest.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many people would show up? You'd have people coming to the bodybuilding show that aren't even fans because it's the big event in town. Mm-hmm. When Brian Shaw did his strongman event in this tiny little town in the mountains in Colorado, it was the most live crowd I've ever seen in my life. And when you looked around there, half the people were local. But they wanted to support the event that was there, and they made it crazy. So who knows? Maybe that'd be a conversation to have with Dan and Jake and Jim and whoever else and say, hey, take a chance. I'm sure there's a market somewhere in the world where that market would pay to have it come there.
Yeah, I just think, a lot of the supplement companies, are U.S.-based.
But they are. But imagine when we go to FIBO, there's way more booths at FIBO than any other expo in the world. And half of them you walk through there, you never even heard of it. It's some company that's huge.
Athletes are repping different brands. So, I mean, it's kind of like, okay, well, we want to support our athletes.
If you knew you were going to do it, let's just kind of like the Olympics. We already know where the Olympics are 8 years down the road.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
If you knew, not this year, but next year, the Olympia was going to be in Saudi Arabia, they would start preparing for it many years out, and supplement companies would say, next year, budget that. We're going to that, because maybe they can't come to the U.S. Maybe it's too expensive. Or if it's in the Middle East, there's a lot of European brands that go to FIBO and used to go to Body Power, and they don't come to the Olympia or the Arnold in the U.S. because they can't afford it. But from Europe, they can. So who knows? It could be it could work one day.
Good topic, yeah.
So it says, I see you're a sneakerhead like so many of us. My question is, what got you into shoe collecting? How many pairs do you have, and what's your favorite pair?
It's just cool, man. I don't know how many I have. I don't want to count. A couple hundred, maybe.
I have a couple hundred. You have way more shoes than me.
I think a couple hundred. So I love my Jordan 1s. My high top Jordans. I have a lot of boxes that I'm still waiting to break open, but I wear a size 12, which is a pretty common size. But my Oreo Jordan 1s are my favorite. So they're black and white, and I have some obviously different series of Jordans, but the ones seem to be my favorite. I like my Concord 11s too. Aren't
they like the most uncomfortable shoes in the world?
You like the Concords, huh?
Aren't they the most uncomfortable shoes in the world?
No, I loved even training even in them. It's great.
Really? I remember when Jordan said his last game at Madison Square Garden, he pulled out the original Jordan 1s, and his feet were bleeding.
Yeah. Well, technology, these guys play a little different,
But still, that means they suck. They're not comfortable. I'd rather wear a pair of Crocs. What do you think of that?
Did the Lakers win tonight, or?
I don't know. J-Mac, they win. It's streaming on the computer. Well, it was. You guys came in here.
I was going to bet this game.
I had the Lakers game.
The Red Sox won me some money last night.
Did they? I had the Laker game bootleg from some website here when you guys came in.
They lost by 7.
All right. That's garbage.
What do you think about LeBron? He didn't come through tonight. He was probably injured.
He's old.
I'm hoping, it brings me up, I'm hoping that when I go to Boston, because I have my show coming up in a couple weeks, the New England Bodybuilding show is the 30th of October. And I'm hoping the Red Sox get to,
Will you go to a game?
Yeah, 100% I'm going.
You won't be cheap and be like, I'm not paying $50 for
honestly,
a ticket.
No, it's going to be, it would be a lot of money, but I'm going to watch the Boston Red Sox if they advance from the time now until, I'm there from the 28th until the 2nd of October.
So if the Boston
November.
Red Sox make it, somebody here knows somebody that could get Jay in a suite.
Yeah, so comment. No, not a suite. Yeah, maybe a suite, yeah.
Oh, look at it. Did you see
I'll take a suite.
No, I'll sit. No, well, yeah. I don't want to get rained on.
Who wants to invite me to the Sox game? I'm sure there's some season ticket holders that are watching our podcast right now.
Well, we have connects to Robert. Could Robert Kraft do anything with that?
I don't think he's He's the Patriots.
Yeah, but you don't think he knows the owner of the other team near him? I know he knows some people connected to him.
Well,
make it happen.
Let's work on that. What else you got for me? Is that it?
That's it. Nobody wants to ask questions, so we need people to ask more questions.
Yeah. So our questions can vary from anything, guys, not just fitness, whatever else. We appreciate all the support. Make sure you guys are sharing this or liking, subscribing.
Share, like it, tell your friends.
We had great response on the last one, I feel.
Yeah, no, it got a good amount of views. We're getting more traction than I thought we would, and it's growing slow, but the traction is growing faster than the channel's growing.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a lot to talk about.
The next
episode is gonna be pretty intense, so it might be a little longer.
And the next episode, we'll see.
We'll talk about it.
We'll get some.
But of course, I'll be back from Massachusetts, so I'll be finished with that trip, which we're kind of doing like a Halloween kind of tour. And you're going to be through the Middle East, and you'll experience the pyramids, which was on your bucket list for the first time. So we're excited.
I've been to over 60 countries, and I've never been anywhere in Africa. So this will be my first time. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. I wish I could take another month and just go.
Take a lot of pictures, a lot of video.
I will. I'll send them to you the whole time.
All right. Well, that's it for episode 10, guys. We're out.